Dead by Daylight is a complex and frankly baffling game. It is thus far the only asymmetric horror game that's going strong with constant updates and a thriving, if not a bit toxic at times, community. Why is that though? Why can't any other game recreate what makes Dead by Daylight special? Could it be that multiplayer horror games aren't really horror after a while, yet Dead by Daylight gets a pass? Could it be that people were spoiled by Dead by Daylight's ability to consistently get iconic horror characters? Probably not. Dev Garden had the Terminator and it still died. My precious. It's gone but not forgotten. Analyzing this question would be a fascinating topic for a video. But not this video. For once, I don't like horror games, but I like Dead by Daylight because it's not really horror, and for another, I'm making this video as a distraction from uni, so I'd rather not put too much effort into it. Instead, this video will look at another question. Which killer has the coolest weapon? Yes, the title is clickbait for a ranking video. If you've gotten this far into the video, might as well stay all the way and have a laugh in the comment section about it. So, 33 killers means 33 weapons. None of them are bad per se, they do their job, still some are cooler than others. I just want to make clear, if it isn't already, this isn't a tier list based on anything other than the cool factor. There are 5 categories I've come up with. Basic weapons, these are the most boring weapons that don't really get you too excited. Slightly abnormal weapons, like the basic ones, but these have 1 or 2 small details that make them stand out. The interesting weapons are unique weapons that aren't quite the level of cool, but they still stand out above the rest. The cool weapons, these are the weapons that make the killer dream. And lastly, we have the coolest weapons. These are the cream of the crop. The weapons that stand above the rest, whether for their looks or even their lore. So let us begin. The killer with the very most boring weapon at the bottom of basic is Hillbilly, followed closely by Bubba. I've grouped them because they're essentially the same thing. It's a mallet. Brutal for sure, but not very creative. That is to be expected since Hillbilly is just off-brand Bubba, and Bubba is, well, Bubba. Following the mallet duo, we have 4 killers that use various types of knives. Worst of the knife gang has to be Wesker, as it makes no sense with the Resident Evil lore. Then we have Legion and Ghostface, with Ghosty getting the upper hand as his knife is cooler. Last in this batch is the Shape of Evil himself, Michael Myers. A classic for sure, the chef knife stands out amongst the other knives, but at the end of the day, it is just a knife, and I wasn't born 60 years ago, so it isn't as iconic to me. Next is the Huntress, who wields a basic axe. Nothing much to say here, you won't even use it too much in game if you're good as her, unlike me. A surprise perhaps would be Pig. A hidden blade might warrant a slightly abnormal rating for some, but for me it is just another form of short blade. Points for the Assassin's Creed reference, I guess. At the top of basic weapons we have Oni and Nurse, both just barely not making it to the next tier. Oni has a sword, but outside the weeb factor it's just a basic katana. Nurse on the other hand has a bone saw, which is indeed pretty cool at some level, but at the end of the day it is also very basic for a medicine connected character. On the slightly abnormal category, we start with Clown. The only reason Clown isn't in the basic category is the decoration on the knife, making it look like a feather. Pretty cool if you ask me. Also the little flick he does helps as well. The next 2 are both licensed killers that use their claws as they didn't have a weapon in their respective original media. We have Demogorgon and Xenomorph. I have them at about equal. They are animalistic foreign species. In fact, their powers are pretty similar. Anyway, we have 3 bladed weapons coming up next with Twins, Trapper and Trickster. Damn, I just realized they all start with T. Twins is probably the worst one. It's weird, yes, but not in the cool way, more in the what is this way. It looks like a sickle, but it's too big and jagged, as well as what is that nail in it. Trapper's weapon has always stood out to me. Something about it, it's unorthodox, geometric shapes, truly make it a cut above the most basic ones. Trickster has a bat that's also a blade with knuckle dusters. And it's bright neon. Is it tryhard? Yes. Is it cool? Sort of. Using blades is fun, but what if you get angry and just want to punch something? Well, in comes Nemesis. His fists are huge, and truly give off the feeling that they could have the same impact as a knife or an axe. Unlike our next killer, we have Blight's cane, which by the way is called the Bone Buster. I don't understand why Blight doesn't use his claws instead. I mean, look at them 6 fingers, they could definitely do some damage. But hey, the cane does destroy pallets, so it might not be that weak after all. 2 swords round out the abnormal category. Spirit and Knight take what Oni tried to do and add a flair to it. Spirit Sword is a brilliant concept for the character, I just wish you got to see it more often in game, while Knight Sword is just huge and imposing, perfectly fitting for the edgelord he is. It's funny how Knight Sword seems a bit too big while Oni seems a bit too small for their respective sizes. The first in the interesting weapons category, we have the Skull Merchant's manga-inspired, totally not predator-baiting claw arm. It is the definition of interesting. Not cool, not basic, just interesting. It's followed closely by the Singularities blade. It is the same story except where Skull Merchant seemed overly designed, Singularities is a bit unjustified. In fact, I'd argue that while Singularity's design as a whole is cool, it definitely makes no sense once you read the lore and realize Singularity should just look like a cyborg Freddy. But I digress. Hack stands as the queen of using her claw to hit survivors. While Zeno and Demi use their claws because they're just animals, Hack's claw is enlarged and used specifically to cannibalize the survivors. Seeing Hack feed after every hit is just a joy. Or maybe I'm just sadistic. The next 2, and in fact last in the category, are both licensed, that being Pyramid Head and Pinhead. I've never realized this, but both had weird weapons, both stand out due to their relationship with the entity, and both are known for their heads. Pinhead's weapon is a cool concept, but just like Spirit, you don't get to see it enough. Pyramid Head's knife, sword, blade is massive. That's pretty much all that carries it this far. Finally, we get to some cool weapons. Starting off with no weapon at all, it is in fact Sadako. The fact that behavior were not allowed to make Sadako touch anything is one of those limitations that birth creativity. The symbol that pops up to represent her telekinesis is a great way to illustrate her power, a marvelous choice. Freddy is next. I don't know why, but every single one of Freddy's animations with the glove makes me so happy. I used to play old Freddy before his rework, and I do mean old Freddy. I didn't mean pre-nerf Freddy, but like take 7 seconds to put you to sleep Freddy. So this weapon has a special place in my heart. The Dredge is the embodiment of darkness and paranoia, collecting the remains of those it preys upon once they've torn each other apart. Thus, its physical form consists of their bodies. Oh, and Maurice of course. There is just something about this weapon that first makes you think it's going to be hard and sharp like a blade, but then you land a hit and it just starts to jiggle. Now, from true dread to a shooting tooting cowboy, we have Death Slinger and the totally not harpoon, patent pending. It's a gun that you use to hit people. Do I have to repeat myself? Cause I won't. You can rewind the video yourself. Finally, just barely not one of the coolest weapons in the game, we have the Artist's Ink Hand. Ink aesthetics in general were striking in a good way, so to have ink come to life and be used in such a way is just amazing. Not to mention some of the skins. I just wish the crows looked more like the weapon than they do actually. I mean, they're too transparent really, they could be inkier. Now, the top 3, the coolest weapons in Dead by Daylight, in the eyes of one person on the internet. At the bronze medal spot, we have the Doctor's Stick. This is a totally biased placement. In all honesty, for most people this would probably just be abnormal or interesting. But it's not just a stick, it's the stick. Also, it looks like a dick. How can you not like that? But okay, I get it. Luckily, our silver medalist is the Plague with the incense. Not only is this probably the clearest case of genius weapon choice lore-wise, but it's also just a mace on a chain. The design looking both ancient and clearly modded by the entity, its use in the Mori, everything about this weapon is just perfect. And yet there is one better. The Wraith's weapon might not be the coolest looking of all for most, and in fact I think on looks alone it isn't much. But this is the best weapon in the game for one simple reason. The lore. Wraith's axe, or whatever it is actually supposed to be, is made out of the skull and spine of the Wraith's last boss before the entity stepped in, Azeroth, the man who tricked an already haunted by his dark past immigrant into killing for him. The revenge fantasy, the storytelling, this is the best weapon in Dead by Daylight. Well, that's it from me. Sorry for the clickbait, but it's just how the game is played, I guess. I promise my next video is gonna be a bit more substantial than this one. With any luck I might actually start making shorts as well. Also, if you like the designs used to represent the killers in this video, you can find them as a portrait pack on Nightlight. Once I start making shorts, I'll also work on perks and improving the portraits themselves, so you have that to look forward to. If you somewhat enjoyed the video, I sincerely ask you to interact with it, like maybe liking or even disliking, commenting, subscribing and all that jazz. And that's it. Bye.